Examples of classroom expectations. Do you ever wonder where classroom expectations come from? Google, your colleagues, the principal. Join me. I'm Marian Busfield. I'm with Engaging Curiosity. We are here to empower you to take charge of your classroom. Thanks for joining us. Remember to like, save, and subscribe to this video and channel, and join me as I delve into classroom expectations, where to get them, and how to reinforce them just a tiny bit. Okay, also, one last thing, check out the freebies in the links below. And here we go. So what are expectations and why are they important? Classroom expectations are different than rules. Rules are something that we impose on students. So that's why I like the terminology expectations. Expectations are something we draw from the students. We create together with the students. This gives them a feeling of responsibility and ownership within the classroom. Most students will share what they have in common, what will make them feel safe and cared for, as well as seen and accepted in their environment. So they are likely to choose expectations that will align with those needs that they have. When creating these expectations, you are likely to hear a lot of negatives. Don't hit, don't push, don't take that. And what our job is, what I like to do, is while we're creating the expectations, also get started on establishing the positive language that we're going to use in our classroom right from the start, right from day one. So I would teach them how to change, how and why to change don't hit to hands to self. And that's how we come up with those more typical classroom management expectations that we love, such as hands to self. Okay, so this is my first step in establishing positive classroom language. So first I start by introducing them to how negative language impacts them. So you might want to try this. I'll describe it first, then pause the video and try it. What I explain to them is I'm going to tell them not to think about something. So I'll say, I want you to imagine a purple elephant blowing up balloons. Okay, now you're going to work really hard not to think about that purple elephant. I'm going to start a timer and you're going to sit quietly with your eyes closed for 30 seconds. When we're all done, we're going to see how many people managed not to think about a purple elephant blowing up balloons. So again, you may want to pause the video and try this out for yourself. So once I've gone through this activity with the students, that I take a poll of the classroom, take a survey. How many of you managed not to think about the purple elephant? Even if you spent your entire time thinking about, don't think about the purple elephant, don't think about the purple elephant, don't think about the purple elephant, you were still focused on what you don't want to do, which means you can't focus on what you need to be doing or want to be doing. So even if students say, I managed not to think about it the entire time, you can ask them how they managed to do that, but were they able to focus on what their job was? Okay, so that's how we kind of touch on why we want to use positive language. We want to be able to focus on doing our job. And there we go, right from the get-go. We are explaining to students that what we're having them do in classroom, what they're learning, that is their job. Just like the adults at home, whoever's providing support, financial support, and a place to sleep and food to eat, whatever job they're doing to provide that, even in a foster system, there's an adult there providing that, and in some way there's a job there. So this is their job. The classroom, the work that they're doing here is their job. That's why somebody else is providing what they need. Okay, another thing that you might want to discuss while you're creating the expectations is an awareness, some self-awareness, and a respect, not just their rights, such as the rules that they want to keep them safe and seen and accepted, but their responsibilities within the classroom and within the school. So that might happen when, for example, you're talking about, why don't we run down the hallway? Well, what is it like when somebody else is running down the hallway? It's noisy, it's distracting, you're wondering who it is, you check to see if it's your friend or your brother or your sister, and it prevents you from getting your work done. And you don't use your time well, you don't get to do your job well, And if you don't get to do your job well, then you may not get to go on to the next thing as quickly. the thing that you really want to get to. So why don't we run in the hallway? Because we want to be a good friend or a good brother or a good sister and not to be a distraction. We want to focus on being a good support to those people that we care so much about. Then there are those expectations that they don't suggest. Of course, they want to be safe and well seen and cared for and accepted, but what about the things that you know that the classroom needs? So for example, if they don't talk about how to treat each other during a game, they don't know you're playing games that year. So you think of ways to gently suggest it. For example, you might say, this year we're going to be playing some games together. What would we want that to look like? And so they will come up with taking turns, paying attention, waiting your turn, not cheating, so playing fairly, those kinds of expectations. You may also add things like, what about if you get a partner that's not your first choice for your partner? If somebody is not your best friend, or even somebody you don't know that well, how do we treat that person? So discuss those things as part of those expectations. Figure out together how you're going to put that up with your other expectations. You do want to make sure that the list isn't too big, but you also want to know ahead of time what you want for sure to be on that list, because ultimately you're creating their buy-in and ensuring the peer support that goes with successfully implementing classroom expectations. But ultimately, you know what you have planned for this classroom and what you need them to be able to work within. So here are some expectations that are on my list. Again, choose them, don't choose them, but do have your own list. So I want my students to be able to share, keep their hands to themselves. I want them to be able to be respectful. Please make sure that they know what the term respectful means. They may have experienced respect, they may never have heard the word, or they may have heard the word and never experienced respect. We don't know. These students are coming from all sorts of different home environments, and the definition of respect can be very different too. So remember, these are your expectations for this environment. It is not their only environment. Make sure they are clear as to what each expectation, the definition of each expectation, and I'll get into more on that on a different blog post actually. Taking turns, hands up to speak, listening to others. Now remember, sitting silently is different from listening. Listening is eyes on the speaker, hands to self. If you're sitting at carpet, sitting quietly, crisscross applesauce, or whatever your rules are. In my classroom, they were allowed to stand as well, or sitting quietly at your desks. Whatever that's supposed to look like, teach them what listening looks like. This is also a part of social emotional instruction. Sharing our ideas. Too often we have one student who wants to do all the thinking for everyone in every large and small group, and the quiet children don't necessarily get to share their ideas, or they don't learn how to confidently share their ideas. And the students who have lots of ideas don't learn how to hear other. These are essential skills for both people for future success. This is a 60-year expectation. This is a lifelong growing in confidence and tolerance and patience and kindness expectation. So it's really important that they understand the importance of this expectation and that you create safety and security and integrity around it. Okay, inside voice. What does that look like? What does it sound like? Where do we use it? Walking in the school. Again, why do we do that? And what it means to do our job. Okay, so some students will struggle with the expectations. Have the chat, and this is what the chat's going to look like. You'll say, okay, here are our expectations, our beautiful expectations. So, does everybody agree with them? If you do, put up your hand. I have had students not put up their hand to have that chat. Maybe they're unsure if they're in their ability to carry through on those expectations. Sometimes they're just so aware of their own mistakes and how hard they try, and they just don't have any confidence in it. Sometimes they're trying to be cheeky, and you just work with that. I mean, mischief is a great thing. It's part of curiosity and everything that is good about children, and that we want to engage that in an appropriate way in the classroom. So if they're unsure of their ability to carry through, that's when it's great to have the talk about the difference between perfection and doing their best. And their best is going to be different for every student in the class. And I have had a student who blurted out regularly, and he really didn't even understand that these expectations applied to him. When I explained to him that I really meant it and I was going to carry through, it took carrying through once. He almost drove me crazy on the first morning. It took me carrying through one time, and he was on board with doing his best. That doesn't mean he stopped doing he stopped blurting out, but his blurting out started looking like this. But it's and everybody could see that he was trying his hardest. And this is about forming a heart and a soul and a mind. It's about teaching him to live with other people as much as it's about whatever content you're teaching. And his ability to go like this is 60-year learning. Okay, so again, you want to clarify with kindness and with grace, identifying do your best versus perfection. Now what? Well, of course, if a student makes a poor choice, there are going to be consequences, and that's part of reinforcement. And if you don't reinforce behaviors, then that undermines the feelings of safety and security of the other students in the class. They don't know if you really mean it, so they don't know what to do. So, and they don't know what other people are going to do to them. So you do need to reinforce the expectations. I do it with affirmations, and as much as I can, I use affirmations to teach the students what expectations look like when they're done properly. However, that's a whole blog post on its own. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, please check out my blog post on what is the positive reinforcement students need to thrive. Meanwhile, thank you for joining me here. If you felt this video was helpful at all, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would also invite you to check out the links below. I have 2 freebies. One is a Calm the Chaos classroom checklist, which helps you to figure out what classroom management strategies you've got and you're doing well, and set goals for the next one. There's also a freebie sample of my differentiated writing prompts. Each one of these you will be asked to share your email address and your name, and that's because I'd love to keep you up to date with what my next blog post is. You are welcome to unsubscribe at any time. So please, I invite you to check those out. Check out my Pinterest. Check out my blog and my store. I've got a TPT store link down there too with my resources. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you soon here at Engaging Curiosity. Bye now.